Greetings, Generals, and welcome to another Lost Souls GT video. Today we will be discussing the scenarios Incantation of Purging and Dark Incantation. These two scenarios, one for the Arbiters of Life and the other for the Scions of Death, tell the tale of your Arbiter or Scion chanting ancient words, words long lost to the sands of time that waken ancient powers, powers that can either feed or starve Nagash. Let's begin with deployment. Deployment for the Incantation Scenarios are done as per battle line, as found in the Warhammer Big Red Book. That's it. No other special rules or tricks. We promise. Oh, but there is the Incantation. The Incantation is a powerful spell with the ability to shift the very fate of the Warhammer world. Chanting it will weaken or bolster Nagash, depending on how it's said. Your Scion of Death, or Arbiter of Life, knows this spell for this and only for this scenario. It is an innate bound spell, and as such it does not break if irresistibly cast. In addition, a Scion or Arbiter can never forget the Incantation for any reason. It has a power level of 5, a range of 24 inches, and depending on whom it's cast by, it is either a Hex or an Augment. Arbiters of Life cast it as an Augment, and Scions of Death cast it as a Hex. If cast by an Arbiter of Life, the Incantation places a protection counter next to him once the spell has been resolved. Whenever the Arbiter or a model in the same unit as him suffers an unsaved wound, and there are one or more protection counters next to him, remove a protection counter and treat the wound as if it had been saved. If it's cast by a Scion of Death, the Incantation places a Vengeance counter on the targeted unit once the spell has been resolved. Whenever a unit with a Vengeance counter suffers hits from a spell, remove the Vengeance counters from it and increase the number of hits caused by the spell by D3 for each Vengeance counter removed. Roll separately for each counter. Let's move on to the objectives for these scenarios. This is another very straightforward scenario. 2 battle points are awarded for each time the Incantation is successfully cast. This means that your opponent has to choose whether to let a small spell that does not have too much impact on the game go through and let you have your battle points, or try to stop you from getting full battle points but not have the dispel dice themselves for the much more deadly spells. Purple Sun, Transformation of Kadan, if you're that way. Either way, it means that you, the player, will need to decide how many dice to cast at the objective spells, or if to cast them at all, instead of having dice for your other spells. As there is a max of 10 points, it means you can have one phase of not casting the spell and still get the maximum points. If the game ends before the end of the turn 6, but not if the game went over tournament time, then the spell is assumed to have been cast successfully for all rounds remaining, so long as the Scion or Arbiter is alive. One more tweak to the rule is the Sound of Runes special rule. Dwarf runes are amazingly powerful, and for some reason resonate with an Arbiter of Life's incantation. An Arbiter of Life in a dwarf army, and a dwarf army only, may attempt to cast the incantation multiple times per turn, as long as he has dice for it and has not broken his concentration, as per the Warhammer rules. Finally, let's talk about the possible matchups for this scenario. Let's say that you are a Scion of Death, perhaps crouched under the shadow of Mighty Nagash himself. You would have 2 possibilities for this scenario. Either you are matched up against an Arbiter of Life who is playing the Cleansing the Runes scenario, telling a narrative of you trying to bolster your Dark Lord's might as the hated enemy is attempting a different ritual to weaken your master. Or you're facing another Scion of Death, who has the nerve to be trying to serve your master more loudly than you. Nagash only has so much unkindness in his undead heart to give. We hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, see lostsoulsgt.wordpress.com for more information on the scenarios, or to register for the tournament. Thank you, Generals, and may the dice be always in your favor.